Welcome to Apex Philosophy, the perfect place to find motivation. Be sure to subscribe and listen every day so you can become your best self. The law of irrationality. Master your emotional self. A summary based on Robert Greene's book, The Laws of Human Nature. What if all your flaws weren't working against you, but were actually helping you? What if all those dysfunctions are somehow what makes us better? The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene aims to help you understand the reasons behind why people behave or act in a certain way, and why you do what you do, so you can turn those flaws to your advantage. Robert Greene came up with 18 laws of human nature and wrote about them in his book. I highly recommend that you read it for more on this subject. Today we will be reviewing the first of the 18. Law number 1. The law of irrationality. Master your emotional self. The first law, according to Robert Greene, is the law of irrationality. Mastering emotions is a skill. It's the way one handles or responds to the way one feels. It's a common scenario that a person gets triggered by something external. For example, a family member passed away and the person reacts with sadness that triggers them to cry. A person could also be going through a breakup and seek revenge because of the anger they feel. Despite the emotions being triggered by external factors, the reactions are caused by something from within. If you did not feel anger, you wouldn't have said bad things to your mother. If you did not feel sad, you wouldn't be losing the appetite to eat. Different triggers cause different reactions. It's also not limited to one emotion. As such, with all the emotions we feel in a moment, how do we practice becoming more rational? We often equate rationality with having control over our lives. However, the reality is far from that. Every day we are governed by emotions. A simple message can cause us to be happy. It can make our hearts jump with joy. In the same way, bad news can ruin our days. We can be stuck in the cycle of sadness for the rest of the week. Our lives are filled with emotional impulses, and it is only natural that we try to seek pleasure over pain. Who would choose to be sad all the time? Our brains are programmed to avoid pain. This is the mere reason why most of us procrastinate. We see work as something painful to do. We do not want to go through it. However, we have a deadline that motivates us to move because missing it would be more painful. And when it is time for the deadline, we are set into a fight mode after spending so long in a flight mode. The adrenaline kicks in and we get to work finishing that project. But again, our actions are directed by emotions, even if it is unconscious. Emotions and consciousness are in separate parts of the human brain. The brain is in charge of sending neurons that can be perceived as different parts communicating with each other. As such, there is bound to be an error with all the noise created by our thoughts. For example, you can't point out why you are so angry with your parents all the time. Is it because they yelled at you for not cleaning your room? Is it because they left you alone when you were a child? A mix of many different reasons, perhaps. When we feel an emotion, sometimes we misinterpret its meaning. This is what causes us to act in certain ways that we normally wouldn't. We lash out at others, we yell at them, we cry our hearts out. And yet, at the end of the day, it is difficult for us to express what we truly feel. Humans are emotional creatures. We feel pain, we feel safe, and we feel happiness. We are easily blinded by our emotions. But if we become aware of such behaviours, we can learn how to manage them. Introspection and reflection are key to the effective management of our irrational emotional self. By definition, introspection is when we observe our mental and emotional processes. Meanwhile, reflection is when we actualize serious thoughts or considerations about a certain thing. Observe your emotions at this moment. How are you feeling? Were you conscious of these emotions before? Are they resurfacing because you thought about them? Bringing such things into consciousness is of great importance. So let's identify them one by one. There are 3 main steps toward becoming more rational. The low-grade irrationality. The first is recognizing your own biases. Biases are often called low-grade irrationality. They distort your perceptions about the situation. For example, if a teacher likes a student more than another, then they would take that student's side, even if the teacher knows it was wrong. In the same way, parents would protect their child, no matter what, because it is their own child. And so, a distorted perception results in a distorted response. There are different kinds of biases. First, we have confirmation bias. Confirmation bias occurs when we use evidence to further our beliefs. For example, during election time, people would cherry-pick a situation to elevate their candidate. If a presidential candidate donated a huge amount to this foundation, then that translates to them being one of the best public servants. Additionally, people would also cherry-pick the negative situations of the presidential competition. The next is conviction bias, wherein people would defend their own views to erase their doubts. Again, these are often reflected in our own perceptions of our chosen candidates. For example, we only focus on the excellent qualities to drown out the bad ones. Similarly, we can also observe this in parents that are failing to see the bad attitude of their child. They would defend their child's mistake to the teacher and even the school's principal. The third one is appearance bias, which stipulates that people think they know someone, but that person is just misleading them or manipulating them. For example, this is practiced by salesmen who need to sell their own products. If they are trying to sell a home appliance product, they would try to relate to the woman's hardships at home, showing that they sympathise with the efforts of housewives. If they are to sell a car, they tell a story of how this car can be shown off to colleagues. They are steering people into buying their products by projecting a persona that customers could relate to. There are other kinds of biases that you should know about, such as group bias, superiority bias, and blame bias, but that is for another time. The high-grade irrationality. The next step is to be conscious of your inflaming factors that cause feelings to intensify. These factors often come in the form of triggers. The first one is childhood memories. These memories often trigger strong emotions and can result in a negative response. For example, I know a friend that feared dogs because she was bitten by one when she was young. Years passed and her ex-boyfriend gave her a puppy for her birthday. Sadly, things didn't go to plan, and although people think she was acting irrationally, I really couldn't blame her. The next factor is sudden gains or losses. Due to these sudden emotions, the reactions of a person go too high or too low. This is why some people view love as something dangerous. It can cause too much happiness that may lead to an obsession. One becomes obsessed with the idea of love that isn't healthy anymore. Similarly, it can cause too much sadness or frustration that leads to jealousy or depression. For example, some people prohibit their lovers from talking to the opposite sex. This limitation becomes too toxic because of the person's own insecurity and lack of reassurance from the other party. But again, it is apparent that emotions come in highs and lows. This also relates to the next factor, which is individuals who evoke these inflaming feelings within us or other people. Other factors are extreme stress and infectious emotions that are taken from large groups. This is often common with school bullies who pick on other students for no reason. They believe that what they are doing is right, or that it feels good. However, it is with such factors that you must learn to distance yourself. Detach from these sources and you are one step closer to being your most rational self. The rational self. Now that we have gone through the different biases and inflaming factors, let's go over 5 simple steps to achieving rationality. First, you need to observe yourself in times of stress. Do you lash out at other people? Do you need to let out your anger through physical means? Or are you calm and quiet? Next, examine the root cause of this stress or anger. Is it coming from an external source? For example, is your child not doing their household chores when they are meant to? Is it your annoying manager? Or is it something caused by an internal source? For example, your fears may be getting triggered by your spouse. Your insecurities are being fueled by a specific group. Whatever the case may be, always record your observations about the root cause of your own feelings. The third step is to always wait before you respond. Breathe in, breathe out. Pause if you need to. Be silent for a bit. Next, accept that some people are irrational. They are prone to the same feelings and emotions that you are. Lastly, be conscious about channeling your emotions. Go for a walk or a run. Go get your punching gloves and hit that bag. Grab a pen and write down your feelings. Do this instead of letting your emotions steer you. You are the one in control, not your emotions. In our next video, we will be reviewing the second law and discussing narcissism. Thank you for listening. Comment below. Tell us about how cognitive biases have affected your behaviour. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.